In the mid-1990s, it was almost impossible to get a PC that didn't look like everybody else's, unless of course you decided to take a chance on IBM's bold new experiment. This is the IBM Aptiva S, and this is Vintage Geek. Just a quick reminder, if you love vintage computing, vintage tech, and a whole lot more, be sure to like and subscribe. It's going to help us a lot as we grow here. And I would encourage you also to become a member at our website, vintagegeek.com. By the mid-1990s, the personal computer had become very much the same across the board. There were many different manufacturers building different PCs. They were all IBM compatible. Whether you had the desktop configuration or the tower configuration, you had a lot of machines that had the exact same color scheme. They were all kind of off-white, and they all pretty much looked the same. And you had some common challenges if you were in the office environment. If you had a big tower, you really didn't want that sitting on your desktop, and you would typically put that on the floor or some other place in your desk area. But then, because of the prevalence of CD-ROM, you would have to ultimately reach to find that CD-ROM drawer and be able to put the disk in whenever you needed it. Same with floppy disks and some other peripherals. It just wasn't super convenient. Now, IBM had seen the trend from Acer and some other manufacturers in the mid-90s of changing the color scheme of desktop computers. Acer computer was one of the first examples of that, using a black case on some of their early PCs. IBM decided to not only change the color and design of their PC going forward for the Aptiva line, but they also wanted to find a solution for that desktop management problem. How do you get the CD-ROM and the disk drive accessible by the average user while still kind of hiding away the primary components of the computer? So they came up with a kind of new and really interesting design at the time in 1996 when they debuted the IBM Aptiva S series. Now, this computer line features black colored components, both the monitor, the CPU, and the extra chassis. So we want to take a quick look at the Aptiva S series and see how this was put together, the components that go into it. Then we want to take it for a test drive and see what some of the things looked like coming out of the factory in the system. For those of you who watch the channel regularly, you probably realize that we've used the Aptiva, this particular one actually, in many videos to date. That's because for early DOS software, especially going into the 90s and some of the early Windows titles, it really is a great machine for running those programs. And this machine has been very reliable for our operation here in the museum. But what we did today is we actually went back to the factory install disk so that we could put this back to the original state when you bought this brand new in 1997, which was the original ship date on this particular machine. So it should be fun to take a look at everything this one has to offer and kind of see what the unique design features were of the Aptiva Model S. The IBM Aptiva S series contained two functional chassis for the system. This was different than other PCs at the time where everything was in one case. In the large case for the Aptiva S, you had the motherboard, the processor, and the hard drive, and of course any other peripheral add-on cards that you may want to put in the system. There's plenty of extra room for drive bays, so if you wanted to put a CD-ROM in the actual tower, you could. You could put additional hard drives in there. There's plenty of space to work with in this larger tower structure. Now, inside this particular Aptiva, this was one of the more top-of-the-line models. It sported a Pentium 200 megahertz processor, 16 megabytes of RAM, a 3.2 gigabyte hard drive, and it had onboard M-Wave sound for all of those great early 90s games. This was a pretty power-packed PC for back in the day. For me personally, about this time in my life, I was looking at machines like the AST Advantage from Walmart, which was probably sporting about a $500 or $600 price tag and would have been very much a save up for years kind of purchase. This IBM Aptiva S came in at just over $3,000 originally, so only in my wildest dreams could I have ever afforded a machine like this back in the day. It has a lot of power for a mid-90s machine. Now, as I mentioned, there are two chassis to the system. We are missing some pieces. There was a monitor housing bracket that would hold the monitor up above the desktop console that we unfortunately do not have, so I don't have a great example of how that worked, but the actual desktop console is worth speaking about. It's really an interesting design. We actually had to replace the CD-ROM drive in this unit because it was not functional when we got the system. And unfortunately, the one we had is the off-white color, so it doesn't match the cool all-black color scheme of the original design. But in the process of actually putting that CD-ROM back in this unit, we realized that it is very precarious how this is put back together, and I really don't want to show the full movement of this top piece, but it will pop down. The original design was that you could actually make the drives disappear entirely from your desktop by pushing this down until it clicks. We're not going to do that today because I'm afraid that it won't come back up again. We're missing the push button on the floppy disk drive, but other than that, everything everything in this unit is now functional. You could actually connect your keyboard and mouse to this unit directly, so you didn't have to have super long cables to go to the tower that would have been presumably on the floor. It's also worth noting that it did ship with a wireless mouse, a 3-button type. It is a ball mouse, but it has a separate receiver that connects into this media console unit to be able to handle your mouse functions wirelessly. That was pretty unusual at the time, so that was just another example of how IBM was trying to make things a little bit more ergonomic. Their keyboard for this setup would also plug into the media console and was a standard IBM keyboard for the time. I'm sure it would be a lot better with the monitor stand to make the monitor actually kind of float above this unit, but we're happy to have what we have here and very happy that it all works. This actual unit plugs into the main tower using a large Centronics connector, but conveniently it's all in one plug, so you don't really have to mess with a lot of cables, which is great. The only other cable going into the main tower is the audio connector that comes from the CD-ROM. If you were playing a music CD, the audio would actually flow back into the tower, so it would go through the normal computer sound card and out through the speakers on the monitor. Interesting design overall. I'm kind of curious to see how this is all going to work in practice. So I've booted up the Aptiva S, and I'm to a familiar screen here, the Welcome to Windows 95 screen. Of course, I remember this from all the times that I installed Windows 95 over the years. It's funny too to see these did you know bubbles like this one about using long file names. We take all this for granted now. Before Windows 95, you could only do 8 characters, which is really funny to think about. I'm going to close this out in a second, but there was something else I noticed, something we just don't see anymore, and that is these icons on the desktop that are actually moving. I'd kind of like to have some moving icons now, if I'm honest. If you have any memories of those moving icons, be sure to sound off in the comments below. We'd love to hear your stories. So if I close out of this welcome screen here, ooh, Aptiva Guide. This must have been a custom piece of software that they embedded into Windows. Should be interesting. Ooh, I like their graphics here. Kind of reminds me of some of their early educational posters that IBM would put in the classroom. Looks like we've got some first steps, easy lessons, useful information, and Aptiva software. Let's take a look at useful information first.
Useful information is just like it sounds. A list of places and ways for you to get the help you want when you want it.
Thank you very much. That's great. Let's see what the Aptiva helper is. Wonder if this is their version of Clippy.
IBM support is never more than a phone call or a few mouse clicks away. Try an online service like IBM Connection on America Online.
Ooh, America Online. That's probably not going to work. Love this graphic though. It's got that classic mobile phone on the design here right above the globe. Everything in the 90s had to have a globe for some reason. Obviously a very early use of the internet for support purposes. We won't be able to test that out, but it's cool that they had it. Going back to the main menu here, just want to take a quick look at the Aptiva software tab.
Your Aptiva comes with a wealth of wonderful software installed. You get programs to have fun with, programs to learn from, and programs to help you just keep track of other programs. They're all waiting for you. Start exploring.
I love that the tab for the internet is called Information Superhighway.
Aptiva is your on-ramp to the Information Superhighway. You've got all the software you need to travel the routes of the major online services. And when you've got the urge to go global, explore the worldwide wonders of internet access.
That surfer going around the globe is just priceless. America Online, CompuServe, Prodigy, and Netscape Navigator. The full gamut of mid-90s technology for the internet. I wonder what the Aptiva Wear is.
Tools to help you set up your computer and arrange your desktop.
Every other manufacturer would have just called this utilities, but they had an entire featured section called Aptiva Wear. I love it. Yes, I do want to exit this Aptiva guide. And of course I want to show this guide the next time I start Windows. Why wouldn't I? All right, so going back to our desktop, let's take a look at Aptiva Entertainment. Ooh, it even moves around when you double click it. Audio station sounds super familiar. I feel like I had a version of this on one of the computers that I had. Oh yeah, look at all this. We got audio mixer, audio view. Let me open up audio station. Oh yes, yes. Now this is branded IBM, but I have seen different versions of this over the years. This is like your home stereo system on your computer. You've got all your volume controls up here at the top. This is your audio mixer section. Then you've got a CD player, a wave player, and a MIDI player. So, you know, if you want to load some of those cool early Windows tunes, let's see what we got here. Here we go. Oh, nice. This is just a great example of that kind of mid-90s design and feel. I would have absolutely loved this when I was young. Like I said, I'm pretty sure I had a version of this that wasn't IBM branded. I don't think I had anything that could actually show me a waveform view back in those days. Just open up one of these jungle files, I guess. Look, it's got the full waveform shown here. Not sure what that was. The waveform display is pretty cool. It's a video puzzle. Solve a puzzle that keeps moving. Oh, wow. It's like one of those moving square puzzles. I feel like that's going to take me some time, but I love the fact that all the pieces are moving as you're moving them around. They seem to have a common theme with wanting everything to be animated. Smart sound. The absolute easiest way to create customized, professional quality soundtracks. That is definitely the opening to any 90s PowerPoint presentation. You nailed it, Smart Sound, you nailed it. Oh, you can order an upgraded product too. I love it when they had a cash grab built into the early titles. The one CD title that really stood out to me in the whole folio that came with the Aptiva Model S is The Lost Mind of Dr. Brain, which was a mid-90s Sierra title. I'm pretty sure that I played this as a kid. Definitely wanted to play this one briefly just to bring back some memories. Let's see what happens here. Ah yes, the Sierra logo.
I am Dr. Thaddeus P. Brain III. The P stands for puzzles. I am the Puzzle Master. Nothing can go wrong.
Nothing can go wrong. I've heard that before. The opening sequence is pretty solid here. So many people involved with making this game. Ooh, I like that they had a brain consultant. Ooh, the ultimate brain puzzle. I'm ready.
What's your name?
Guess it's just a 3-letter name, so we'll just go with VIN.
I am obsessed with the ancient science of puzzleometry. I have discovered that within puzzles lies the secret of human intelligence. That which separates us from the common beast.
The graphics look great so far.
Uncle, it's Elena. You must stop the experiment. I just read your email, and Uncle, substituting the broken brain filtration valve with a chunk of Rathbone's cheese is insane.
Glad she said it.
Oh, Elena, it will be just fine.
Something tells me it's not going to be just fine.
Dr. Brain has transferred too much of his intellect to Rathbone. We'll have to reverse engineer every brain puzzle Dr. Brain has ever solved. When all the puzzles are solved, we'll pour his intellect back into the brain drain and pressure force the intelligence back into his own head.
I love the clever design of this game. Obviously, they put a lot into the cutscenes and the story behind it. There's a lot here. It sounds like it's going to be a lot of work. It's got the different regions of the brain. That's pretty cool. Well, let's do some file sorting just to see what this is like.
Now entering file sorting.
Wow. That took a turn. I feel like there's a lot happening here.
You have entered another dimension. A dimension of memory and mind.
Love the Twilight Zone reference. That's a lot of fun.
Objects will be presented to you one at a time. Each object must be placed in a drawer. At various intervals, Rathbone will request an object be retrieved. You must then remember and select the drawer in which that object is stored.
All right, so we've got a brick. Let's put it in this drawer here. All right, well, since we're doing building materials, I guess we'll just put this on the next drawer.
Select a drawer for the Dinwiddie. Retrieve the brick.
That I can do. This brick, I know exactly where it is.
Retrieve the light bulb.
I know where that is too. This is great.
This section is now 5% complete.
5%?
I really want to play again.
I'm not going to continue to play this, but it's worth noting that the technical quality here of this game is really good. It's got a lot of animation, a lot of things going on, and it's a pretty good example of what the Aptiva S series could do, so I'm glad that we have this title here in the collection. Well, after getting to play with some of the original titles for the Aptiva S and seeing how it was all configured from the factory, I'm impressed. I have to say, this is probably one of my favorite 90s machines. If I would have had this when it was new, I would have been absolutely ecstatic. Just all of the things that they've crammed into this package is really cool. The software complement is great, and the technical function of the unit is good as well. I think that we'll be featuring this Aptiva in future videos. It's a great way of running 90s titles. If there's a particular title you'd like to see us play on it, please put it down in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching. Just a quick reminder, if you like vintage content, be sure to like and subscribe. It's going to help us a lot as we grow. And I would encourage you to become a member at the website. It's at vintagegeek.com. You can get discount on museum tours, and there's a lot of additional content and bonus features as well. Until next time, I'm Aaron, and this has been Vintage Geek.
Bye for now.
So long, fatty well. Pip, pip, Cheerios. Be back soon.